A warm greetings to one and all present here. Now it's the time to learn about foster independent thinking through critical pedagogy. First, critical thinking is almost considered as one of the primary goals of education at all levels. Either it is primary, secondary, or higher secondary. There are several common techniques for fostering critical thinking in classroom. First, reading, and whether simply reading literature or textbooks, whatever it is, reading introduces students to new ideas and new ways of looking at ideas. It helps also helps in improved thinking. Next, we move to the questioning. Requiring students to pose questions about the material being explored invites them to focus more closely and examine implications more carefully. It also supports exercise in critical thinking. Next, questioning. Here, asking questions, students and then further interrogating their responses forces them to think further and deeper. Next, we move to the argumentative essays. Essays wherein one develop a reasoned argument force students to examine relationship between claims and the implications they hold. Essay writing also forces students to think more deeply. Written assignments invite a kind of the examination of one's views, which is integral to critical thinking. Next, we move to the topic of discussion. Classroom discussion exposes students to a wide variety of perspectives. It also gives them an opportunity to add their own thoughts and having to present one's thoughts, want to examine them more deliberately. Next, we move to the topic of debate. Debate engages students actively. A debate forces the students to challenge received wisdom. When they are required to prepare a position in beforehand, perhaps in groups, they take primary responsibility for their learning, a crucial step in critical thinking. Because debate stimulates students' interest for debate discussion, reflections becomes more thorough. Next, we move to the topic of modeling. Instructors can model critical thinking by evaluating in class positions that sounded first to be implausible. This is not only invites students to do the same, but shows them how such examination might proceed. Students learn much by imitation. Next, we move to the topic of new media or delivery technique. Simply shifting to a new medium can help disrupt a tendency for students to be passive observers in the classroom. Next, we move to the topic of conferences. Conferences between a teacher and a several students offer several potential benefits. First, the small group dynamic leaves each student feeling more responsible to prepare and participate. Students are more engaged than in larger classroom. Students are more intellectually honest. Next, we move to the topic of case studies. It invites students to explore what features of a case they see as relevant. It also invites students to take greater initiative and responsibility for his learning. Like case studies, thought experiments also invite students to think more actively. When they deal with unrealistic situation, they invite students to focus on particular aspects of a situation, to consider more directly the implications of individual features of a situation or problem. Next, we move to the topic of role playing. When students seriously attempt to adapt a different role, they are apt to experience a perspective shift on the issue they are considering. Next, we move to the topic of concept maps or imagery. Some students are able to see relationship between ideas more clearly when those relationships are drawn out graphically. It helps more in critical thinking. Next, we move to the topic of written feedback. Written feedback offers students on ideas he or she expressed in the classroom, etc. Guides the students through re-examining the strengths and weakness of his or her position. Thank you. I hope it helps well.